Welcome, Joelle. I'm glad you're here today. Thanks for being on the M Word.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Um, I'm excited because we have a lot to talk about because you have this awesome marketing background, but you are also an author of a book that presumably is not about marketing. Am I right on that?
It is not about marketing, but a lot of how I approached leading teams and things I learned about negotiation through being in marketing and in sales became invaluable tools on the cancer journey.
Okay. So you said it. You tipped your hat there. It is a book about your cancer journey, which we will get into. Crushing the, yeah, hold that back up. Most of
Yeah.
our listeners are going to be listening to this, but she's holding up a book. It's Crushing the Cancer Curveball. And so, Joelle, I look forward to hearing about that, your journey in that. Why don't you just start with at the highest level? Like, who are you? How are you here? What brought you here?
Oh my, who am I?
Who are you?
I'm the eldest daughter. No, I grew up in New York and New Jersey, went to Michigan, did some consulting, went to Harvard Business School, and fell into tech and really enjoyed the speed of innovation that I found in technology startups. And uh, particularly ones where we were experimenting and what would resonate with a buyer and what was the difference between who bought and who didn't buy and then who was successful and who wasn't successful. To me, that is a organizational psychology bonanza of understanding motivation, motivators, and all the various factors that go into what makes a success as a product. So I bounced a lot between functions. I was in product management. I was in biz dev. I did channel. I did account management. I did sales management. And then I fell into leading marketing. It was the first job I had in marketing was leading it for a tech startup that was in a space I had explored deeply at RSA Security and recommended RSA Security get into that they decided they weren't going to get into. And so I ended up joining one of the startups in that space. And in the funny stories of, be resilient and believe in yourself, they interviewed me the first time and said, no, you don't fit anything in our profile, which didn't. And a friend, uh, who's a luminary in the industry, reached out to them and said, you're crazy. Although he was more colorful, he's Australian and he does not, he has a lot of color, spice in his language. And so they interviewed me again and said, this was a courtesy interview because we don't want to piss off this guy, but because you don't fit anything in our profile. I said, oh, all right. I should mention I was 7 months pregnant at the time. And they said, yeah, we have to hire you now. Like, you're exactly what we need. And that was my entree to marketing and figuring out all the things I didn't know, even though I had done positioning and packaging and pricing, and I certainly had the education, but I'd never done demand gen and I'd never done PR and analyst relations. And and wasn't like it was a big function. It was me. And then it was me plus a couple others. Like this was not come run a 70-person organization.
Right, right.
That was a big jump.
So, were you up to that point? I'm very much a say yes and figuring it out later kind of person. Was that fitting your profile at that point, or was that new for you? That idea of like, oh, sure, I'll go into
Like you.
marketing.
I generally said like I'll bet on myself. I can figure things out. Um, Sometimes that's arrogant and sometimes that's appropriate. And I think it's hard to know looking forward which one it was,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'll use arrogant. You told me in the prep you like to talk about big fuck ups.
Yeah.
So when I came to the Bay Area, the boom was on in the late 90s. And I thought, I had gone to Brazil for a host of reasons, most around my husband. And I felt like I'd missed a couple of years and I needed to catch up. And the first company I joined, when I dove into the business model, I couldn't get behind it.
Mm.
And I didn't think it was right to stay at the company and be a disruptive force. And the CEO and I had long talks, and we just had disagreements about how it would unfold. And so I left and I got an opportunity to do a turnaround in a healthcare cancer disease management space. Now I knew cancer because if you read the book, you know I have 43 years of intergenerational experience with cancer. But I don't know the business of healthcare, and I didn't
Hmm.
know the business of cancer. And here I am joining this offline disease management company, and they say, "Well, bring it into the internet." And I made a series of rookie mistakes. Number one, I didn't ask enough questions of customers, of doctors. I listened to the people in the company, but I wasn't listening enough to the market.
Hmm.
I was trying to go so fast that I didn't think I had time for that. That was a mistake. If you don't have time to listen to your market, you don't have time for anything else. Then I hired too many people because we were trying to bring this thing into the internet and go, go, go. And that meant I burned way too much money. And so
Hmm.
the rules for being a CEO is number one, don't run out of money, right? You can do that by sales. People buy what you sell, uh, by raising money, or by conserving cash.
Yeah.
Now, I happened to take on this job, and 3 months later was the market crash. So we had this thought that I was going to be able to raise more money, but I couldn't. And what I didn't do was start conserving cash. So those were mistakes. Now, I was 27, it was my first go round, but they were mistakes. And I think the other mistake in that was I thought we could change something cultural about cancer care. And here's that thing, and I write about this later in the book, although I don't go back to my venture experience. We think when we hear the worst thing you can hear, I'm sorry, it's malignant, or it came back positive, or it's cancer, whatever version you got.
Hmm.
You think that somebody on the other side of the phone is going to explain to us all the ins and outs of what's going to happen next and what to expect and what I can do. And the thing about cancer is it's multidisciplinary. And even at a national comprehensive cancer center, like I was at, where they all are on the same floor, they're not talking. The quarterback of
Sounds like business.
right. The quarterback of your cancer care is you, and now you're negotiating or fighting for your life. And it's overwhelming. And there are so many terms. And so at LifeSpire, we said, oh, we're going to make a service available where you can talk to an oncology nurse and she'll be your coach through the whole process. The problem was people facing cancer for the first time, they didn't think they needed that because isn't their doctor going to do that? And by the time
Hmm.
they realized they would have needed that, they no longer need that. So we had a solution to a problem that no one was going to buy. Now, one of the women I profile in the book, her healthcare system has what's called a cancer care navigator. And this person is who called her right with the diagnosis. And she said, she did it all, right? That was an investment that health system, which is in Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
made to do it differently. And I applaud it, but it is an exception. Now, when I took it on, I knew I'd seen the map. And so the subtitle of my book is a playbook for the newly diagnosed and their family and friends, because I figure you're going to realize really fast that a whole bunch of things are coming at you, not unlike being a marketing person in a startup. And it's helpful to have a resource that you can access to say, what the fuck?
Yeah, I can imagine. I haven't had to deal with that diagnosis for myself, but I have walked it with family members. And the you know, I think what I hear you saying is like you don't have any clue what you don't even know yet to even ask the right questions. And I think going back to that, you were relating your early sort of CMO role with this idea of asking questions of the market, but it's like it starts like even more fundamentally of like what am I to do here? What are my resources? What aren't I asking that I don't know? And I
Right.
think that happens at every layer of the professional journey and on the medical side. It's like there's what is it? The information asymmetry is so great. And I know that we deal with this talking to clients who don't understand the jargon with which we use in our marketing world. They just want to know is my audience growing? Is
Hmm.
my company going to be okay? And we're using all these terms like KPIs and click-through rates and right ROI. They understand that it's basic business, but how much of this in maybe you address this in your book is like so having the guide, there's a communications are at the heart of all of this, right? Like you can't ask questions if you don't understand the terminology. You can't, who has the power in these relationships? Are the doctors assholes and are like, sort of like, I already told you that. Like, where are you teaching people communication skills as part of this journey to navigate?
Absolutely. I actually think communication is at the core. And I want to be clear. I think the doctors who are part of the cancer care community are generous. I think they are caring. I don't think they are in any way trying to be arrogant assholes. They know you're scared. But they are also, they have a job to do.
Hmm.
And often, you know, the oncologists, there was a study that came out a few years ago that the oncologists didn't realize how long the side effects of chemo lasted for their patient because people weren't reporting it.
Mm.
They weren't reporting that they were nauseous for days or that their GI tract didn't settle for days. And even today, the standard of care is let's see if the standard antiemetics work for you before we upgrade to the stuff we know works. So one of my approaches was, look, I know because I have family members like my mother, my sister, who've been through this, that the standard treatment didn't work, the standard antiemetic. So it appears that genetically that doesn't work for me. So can I please have the one that we know does work? And can I have it at the onset? And my doctor said, sure, of course. But no, you wouldn't know to ask, right?
Right.
And I think communication is also, it's twofold. One is about recognizing if you're even able to hear because you're having an emotional response. So this happens obviously in the cancer scenario, but it happens at work all the time. We're emotional beings.
Hmm.
We are tired, when we are stressed, when we are scared, those emotional responses are biologically clouding our thinking. And so we need to notice that we are clouded and that we need to have a play. What do we do to charge our batteries? I was on with a client this morning. And by the way, with the cancer company, I wasn't the CMO, I was the president and CEO. Like it was, I truly was responsible for the cluster, all of it. Um, um, and
It was your circus. It was
it
your
was my
monkeys.
monkey. They were my monkeys. It was my circus. It was
Yeah.
my. Um, I was on with this client, and her energy was really low. And I know a little bit about her, and I asked her to tell me about the things she's accomplished so far this week or last week, and she did. And she told me about her to-do list and blah blah blah. And then I said, "See how much more energy you have?" And now that's the recipe for her, right? We all have a recipe of what we know charges our batteries. What we're bad at is knowing our battery is depleted,
Hmm.
and life depletes our batteries. So first off, to communicate, start with charging your battery. So if you're going into a conversation with doctors that you know you're nervous about, what charges your battery? For me, writing out my questions in advance helped me feel like I wouldn't forget.
Mm-hmm.
Having tools to track what was going on that I could then just share with them helped me feel like I could communicate effectively. And bringing a second person plus a recorder on my phone, a transcript maker, so that I didn't have to remember every last word or take every last note. Somebody else was doing that and I could be present. So those were things that charged my battery. I think for a lot of people, having a note taker, having a transcript maker is a really good idea. But,
Mm-hmm.
and I like the idea of writing out your questions in advance, but you might be somebody for whom you need to remind yourself, like, I'm going to beat this, or this is early stage, or this doctor's here to help me. Like, I don't know, you know what makes you feel better, but you want to go in feeling like your battery is at 70, 80%. The next part of communication is, if you will, the art of negotiation. But what is the other person trying to convey? What does the other person need to be able to give me the information that they want me to have, that I want to have, without all the extra emotional baggage? And so, one of my things was I genuinely and authentically thanked my doctors for their care, for their insight, for the research they were doing. And that charged their battery right in the moment. And then we were able to communicate better. And you have to advocate. So, like I did with the antiemetic, I did the same thing when it came to scheduling all of my chemos, doing it myself with the infusion center. But in marketing, we also have to advocate, right? Sometimes we have to advocate, your board, your CEO, your CFO, like, tell me what this campaign is going to contribute to the bottom line. And the answer is, if you're in B2B, there's lots of different touch points, and it's near impossible to know the singular impact of each one. We have to keep changing the mix and figure out what is engaging the people who are most likely to buy, and how do we find more of them. But that's looking at it at a more directional than it is precision.
Sure. So back to your, your circus with your monkeys, and you're running out of runway and money, and you're, sort of like, are you in over your head? Do you climb out of this? Like what's the,
Oh
and
no,
then what happened?
we had to shut it down. We had to shut
Okay.
down the company. So if I were to play it back, I would have talked to customers more. I would have not ramped up and hired a bunch of people, but I also would have focused on, where's a home for this company? Like, the right answer was probably not that we should stand alone. And there's reasons for that if you understand the economics of healthcare, but I'll do it in 30 seconds as best I can. Um, Cancer happens, it's 1 out of every 2 Americans over the course of their lifetime. The probability of cancer happening to anybody right now is actually really low, which is great. Thank God, we want that. So if you're a health plan, and you're a health plan in a state, which is how they're done, you have
Hmm.
a set of covered lives. If they're under 65, the probability of cancer is actually pretty low. And there's nothing you can do to change it other than take different lives. But, we're under 65, they're probably employed. It's random. And when cancer hits, it's going to cost X 100,000, period. So what we were doing at LifeSpire was, we could take something that was 120, make it 100, and make it easier on the patient. Hey, that was great. But from the insurance company, they're like, from 120 to 100 is just not enough to care.
Hmm.
Not that they don't care about the people, but it's like, the problem is I don't want the 100.
Right. 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 So you shut that down.
I did.
And like the lessons that you learned there that you've articulated, how do those show up? Because now you're running your own business that you founded, right?
Mhm.
Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, now I'm a solopreneur. So I think the lessons I learned actually showed up in my career after LifeSpire through to starting GTM Flow. But in GTM Flow, I do try to listen carefully to what people need, to what people are looking for. It's a continuous iteration, right? And
Hmm.
it's this balance. And I feel for founders because I think they have this balance problem all the time, which is what do I want to do and what do people want to buy?
I think if there is a bottom line of entrepreneurship, it is 100% that.
Exactly. And the problem is often what I want to do and what people want to buy do not completely overlap. And then I have to choose on which of these two dials or axes am I going to adjust,
And
right?
that's where the term shit work comes in, that people have to do the stuff they don't want to do because it's required for the things that people want to buy.
Sometimes, and sometimes you have to realize that the thing you want to sell isn't something that people want to buy or they don't want to buy in the same volume that you would like to have. And all of that,
Hmm.
those are just adjustments you make,
Hmm.
right? I don't there are people who said, I want to be a multimillionaire and I want to build a multi-million-dollar business. And I'm willing to sell whatever sells in order to do that. God bless. You know what's important to you. Other people are in the, I have a purpose and a North Star. You used that word. And I have to be true to my North Star. And whatever that generates, it generates. Right. But I'm doing it in the easiest. I have a services business, right? I'm not hiring tons of people and we're not building tons of product. It's, me and a bunch of virtual assistants. But I would say the lessons I learned about focus on where you're going to make money as a company and double down there. Experiment, but double down. Listen to your customers. I'm like the Pied Piper of we
Hmm.
listen to our customers properly. And it blows away every client and every person I have a conversation with because I say we don't ask the right question. The question is not why did you buy from me? And then they're going to tell you all the things that are wonderful about you. And the question's not why did you buy this? They'll tell you what's going on in the market or whatever else. But the question is actually why did you buy now? And the answer, if you're getting the right answer, is going to be about something that was happening for them or inside their organization. And those are outside of our control. So, as marketers and sellers, we convinced ourselves that we can create urgency. All I need to do is the right campaign will create urgency. I mean, how many times have you heard that, Jennifer?
Yep, yep. The deal's expiring.
The deal's expiring. We need to create urgency. So, for everyone who says that, can we all just agree it's hooey? It's bullshit. We don't create urgency. We tap it.
Oh, I love that.
Okay.
And
And
the how there is going to be your next book.
uh,
And
exactly. But, how we tap it is because we actually listen to people about what were the circumstances that moved whatever we have from something that's interesting and is on the list to something I'm going to do the ridiculously painful, hard thing of buying something,
hmm.
right? And in that change is everything. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, now my mind is spinning. It's like every survey I've ever done to our current clients, our past clients, how satisfied are you with what we, blah, 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 the impact that this, that. But I don't think I've ever asked why, why now or why then,
right.
what,
Why then?
why then? Really
Because
like that.
it will transform your approach and it will make your marketing much more efficient because now you know in your discovery, do they have one of these things? Or in your sourcing, I'm looking for organizations with these kinds of things happening, this
Hmm.
kind of signal, and now I can do something. Now, interesting, I'll draw this now back to cancer to just be a little mind-blowing. I always considered myself very lucky. Because I have a genetic mutation, I didn't have any question about where my cancer came from. And for my entire adult life, every physician that has ever cared for me has looked for it. So what I knew was if I got this disease, it would be caught early because I was looking for it and everyone was looking for it. The saddest thing about the incredible rise in cancer in younger people is that they're pre-screening age or they're going through their very first screening and it's there and no one was looking for it and it's earth-shattering. It wasn't earth-shattering for me. It was
Mm-hmm.
unpleasant. It was unwelcome. Uninvited. I had many stronger words for it as well, but
I bet.
but it wasn't a surprise. The surprise was the timing because it was the day before I was supposed to have a bilateral mastectomy. It was like, really? Really? But that's what it was. But it was 9 millimeters. It's tiny, right? And it was early and it was responsive to chemo. And I feel so lucky. So those signals, the ability to be looking for signals, whether they are
Mm-hmm.
knowing your body and looking for signals that something is off, or in your business and knowing your customers and understanding what are the signals that a prospect has urgency. And
Right.
it's the easy ones like, oh, they're calling us all the time. Okay, great. Like a monkey could figure that out. You don't need marketing for that, right? Like bluebirds are great things. We love them, but they're not a strategy. What do we know? What are the set of circumstances? Where can we look for them? And then what actions will we take when those circumstances are playing out to make us front of mind for the moment with urgency?
Yeah.
That's good strategy. That's good marketing.
That's fantastic. There's so much we didn't talk about today, Joelle, that I wanted to like I have notes from when we spoke last month about I wanted to ask you all about leadership and I wanted to ask you about how why every business problem you said this to me, every business problem is a people problem, but we are running out of time here and I want you to just um, you know, summarize for me, if you will, who needs to buy your book, yeah, who the audience is for this book, and then I'm going to bring us home with some completely unrelated pop culture questions.
Fabulous. So I think everybody should have this book on their bookshelf because it is statistically impossible that you will not deal with cancer in your circle, whether that is, God forbid, yourself, someone you love, someone you work with. And the book is designed that you can read one little excerpt if that happens to be what's going on at that time. You could read it end to end if you're so inclined. It's apparently a quick and easy read. It has an index, so you could look for the topic you care about, go to that. And it's structured so that you have each chapter, which are very short, have lessons learned. So a checklist. So if you don't want any of the story, you got checklists, you got summary of checklists, or if you really, really just want the brass tacks, the conclusion at the end is literally like, okay, here you go, the whole book in 8 pages, right? You don't want any of the stories. You just want to know what to do. I see
Yep.
you. I respect it. Go for it. I think if you are the friend or family member and the number two, I get asked two questions all the time. What do I do? I just heard it's cancer. What do I do? My fill in the blank just found out they have cancer.
Yep.
So if you're in the second, if you just buy the book to read chapter, I think it's 15 or 16, the mental game, I created a list of all the things you can do that help somebody. And it is actually going to be way more helpful to the person you are supporting to offer to do something specific than to ask them to now manage you and your need
Right.
to help. Right. So it's called chapter 16. It's called The Fans. And literally there is a list of all the things people need. Some of them are as easy as send a stupid cat meme if that makes them laugh. Because this idea of happiness tripwires, little moments of happiness that just keep coming up during your day, actually makes everything better. It makes your immune system better, it makes your energy better, and frankly, it just makes you smile, and that's better.
I love that advice, and I think that helps justify when I take what I call my TikTok breaks because sometimes I subscribe to a lot of funny cat videos. So that is wonderful. So is it fair to say, Joelle, that this book as a culmination of your own personal journey, um, and when you look forward, is this your passion project? Is this what gives you meaning now?
The book is my act of service. It is
Okay.
my passion product, but it's my act of service. I figure with 43 years facing this thing, we've learned a few tricks, and why shouldn't everybody benefit? No
Like
one
that.
should feel unmoored, alone, traumatized any more than they have to. So if picking up my book gives them the sense of confidence, of knowledge, of power, that's what I want. I want to change the narrative. My passion project is to change the narrative so that we respond to cancer with a okay, this is something I have to go through instead of, oh my God, this is going to destroy my life.
Yeah.
Because for most people, it's not going to. And if you are in the really unfortunate other group, then we need to think about how to make whatever time you have left as rich and rewarding as possible.
Yeah. Well, there's someone in my life that I'm going to be ordering this book for today, and we will certainly include a link in the show notes for this wonderful book. So to close us out, Joelle, do you have a favorite social media?
My favorite social media probably is still Facebook because I get to catch up with friends from far and wide and see their kids grow up.
Taylor Swift, yay, nay, or don't care?
I think she's brilliant. She's a brilliant businesswoman. She has moved economies. So,
Mhm.
and I like her music.
There you go. Is In addition to your own, is there a book you always recommend?
I recommend Stolen Focus and by Johann Hari. It is a wonderful book on how we can pay attention again because we have a collective assault on our ability to pay attention.
Yeah, I represent that, I think. That's And where would you like to go on your next vacation?
Well, I'm going on my next vacation to
Yay.
Florida to watch my son play baseball. And hopefully, I'm also going to spin into Disney World's Animal Kingdom. I've never been to the Pandora session area, and I just thought that was a very cool, creative movie. And so I'd love to see how the Imagineers created it.
Sounds great. Spring is finally coming here in Northern Virginia, but it's, warming the bones in Florida sounds really nice around this time of year as well. So that's great. I hope you have a wonderful vacation, Joelle. I really appreciate you being here on the M Word, sharing your journey. It's like this intersection of, your business journey, but certainly more importantly, like your health and your personal perspectives and recognizing some of these traits of communication and leadership and advocacy that transcend all aspects. So that was my takeaway from this conversation, and I really hope our listeners were able to take some of those important lessons as well.
I hope so too. Life is like that. It's full of curveballs.
That's right. Thank you again, Joelle.
Thank you.